now ends. Maybe, as we look forward with fresh enthusiasm for one of the most open competitions in professional football. The Championship is back. Looking forward to the new season. We have BBC West Yorkshire sport pundit Matt Glennon.
Good evening. Yes, thank you.
Fantastic. Just make sure everyone that's listening online, just let me know if you can hear me, because we do have one or two Wirecast gremlins on here, and that's always appreciated. With Matt Glennon and myself, Matt Shaw, he's gone from telly Savalas to just being on the telly. It's Richard Kozjak Kosmala. How are we doing, buddy?
Yeah, good man. How are you?
Very good. And a man whose research is so thorough that he's bound to predict Fulham to win the league for the third season running. It's Dan Porritt, and obviously I'm your host with the hair, Matt Shaw. Right, okay, guys, it only feels like 5 minutes since we last did our season review, doesn't it? Since then, we've somehow lost the head coach, half the team that competed in the playoff final at Wembley, with 6 of the 11 no longer at the club. Carlos Corberan's no longer there, neither is Jorge. So that to me is probably a natural place to start, isn't it? On the head coach Carlos Corberan. I wrote an article on it, which about 8 people read. So thanks to those 8 people, that meant the world to me. So I had a few sort of theories in there as to what the whats and whys. But I think it'd be quite interesting if we go to Matt first on Carlos Corberan and get your thoughts, Matt, on the big man himself. Why, as to your thoughts on Carlos Corberan leaving, and really sort of why that was.
Well, he sort of said it himself. Him and the club aren't quite aligned with where he wants to go, and I think they talked about budgets and things like that. Obviously, Carlos massively overachieved last season without spending a penny. He probably expected to get a little bit just to push over the line. Maybe he'd been beat a bit stronger in certain positions, especially because we all knew the longest saga in football, like transfers are, that O'Brien and Toffolo were going to be going, as well as obviously Colwell's gone back to Chelsea. So he just thought, you know what, give me a little bit of quality, and I reckon I can push this squad maybe over the line, and not getting that, and the club just wanting to, making sure they stay stable. The chairman not wanting to obviously put any sort of financial onto the pitch, as in transfer fees. Carlos is thinking, I've done as much as I can. It's time to get myself on holiday for a couple of weeks.
Kosi, you were a big Carlos Corberan fan, weren't you? Obviously, with him being Spanish, that ticked every box possibly imaginable for you, didn't it? All he needed was a Madri in his hand, and then you were his for life, weren't you? So you were pretty disappointed, weren't you, with Carlos leaving? Just let us know your thoughts on that, because we've not really heard from you on this channel.
Yeah, very disappointed, to be honest with you. I think more disappointed that he weren't announced as the next manager of West Ham or Everton or whatever. He's not gone anywhere. Like Matt says, he's gone for 2 weeks holiday. I think that's what hurts the most, to be honest with you. I can't remember a manager kind of going on, especially late on after the season had finished as well. We're talking 3-4 weeks as well. So yeah, a bit of disappointment, to be honest with you. Just in order the job that he did. He wasn't the most charismatic guy, and I'm sure there's quite a lot of people that are not too bothered to see him go. But I just think the job he's done cannot be underestimated as well. And it's quite interesting because obviously us town fans are used to always taking a backward step, it seems, when we want to take a forward one. And a lot of people who support the teams have been, what is going on with Carlos Corberan? How come he's left and that as well? And then when you kind of explain where we're at, it's they're kind of like, okay. But I just remember me and you, Matt, having that conversation, and it just leading up to Wembley, and Championship player fans always like sliding doors moment and stuff, and we weren't daft enough to.
Said, didn't we?
Yeah, we knew O'Brien would probably go. Maybe even if we'd gone up, he might have gone. We don't know, but apparently, I just wondered when I left Wembley, I just thought, I wonder if Carlos will be around for next season. But more the fact that he'd be poached, the fact that he's kind of said goodbye on his own accord as well, and I also think as well is that obviously there were rumours of the MK Dom manager coming in, and obviously they've gone with Danny Schofield. It all seems a bit naff to me, and it's like here we are, a chance to kind of kick on, like you said, Matt, just a couple more signings and stuff, and it's I think it just sends out a bad message for me about Huddersfield Town, where we want to be really, which I don't think that is pushing for promotion in my eyes.
Poz, that article I wrote, essentially what I thought was that we all hear little bits, and what we try and do is decipher whether what we hear is tantamount to what we think or believe could have gone on. And one thing that I understood or thought I understood was that Carlos wanted a little bit more say in what goes on behind the scene, a bit more autonomy, if you like. The timing of it all was really strange as well, because it was like he'd come back for the first day's training, hadn't he? And then sort of had a look around and gone, right, I'm off, lads. You know, it was like he'd taken a look and gone, it's not happening, is this? But I think you've got to sort of have a look at the club and going back to that article. Read the article if you haven't read it already, because I'm plugging that vociferously at the minute. But essentially, what I thought happened was Carlos wanted more of a say. He wanted to sit, the head of the table. Have more say in transfers, have more say in autonomy, etc., etc. The club maybe pushed back a little bit on that, because the last time the club acquiesced, if you like, to a head coach or a manager really sort of taking more of a role was David Wagner. And once David Wagner left, that left Huddersfield Town in a real mess. And they did the same a little bit with Danny Cowley. And it was purposely moved back, wasn't it, to essentially have your own little slots, your own little heads and roles and recruit. You had your recruitment department was done by the recruitment. Lee Bromby, as the head of football operations, oversaw it all. And the head coach is the head or the department head of the coaching department, and that's it. And for me, that seems to be a bit of an issue maybe for him. I've waffled a lot there, but what are your, finish off the Carlos Corberan thing, and I'll go to you guys on Twitter, on YouTube, to see what you think.
So, mine is similar to Kosi. I think first and foremost, it came as a bit of a shock out of the blue. Obviously, I'm sad to see him go. I thought after last season, it could be one of those moments where I know modern day, well, you don't keep on with managers for season after season after season these days, but sort of fans were 50-50 on him. He had a great season and won a lot of them round. I fully appreciated that. He probably overachieved last season, and he already knew in his own mind that it would be difficult to replicate that anyway, let alone losing O'Brien, Toffolo, Colwell, players like that. And for me, if it is down to not being able to bring in the quality that he wants, I mean, he's the first team manager. If he wants a player, as much as we've got a recruitment department and a system and all that sort of stuff that goes with it, if he's a first team manager and he's working with that team day to day, then he should be able to go in and say, can we have a look at getting X, Y, and Z? He shouldn't just be presented with players that he might not particularly want or might not think that it fits the system or whatever it might be. So if the line of we're not aligned anymore is due to the structure behind the scenes rather than the money side of it, which both sides seem sort of feasible, then yeah, I would be doing the same as him, because I won't want to lead a squad of players that I didn't particularly want, or have players added to it that I didn't think we needed or didn't think were good enough, and be told to work with them, because the only way that that's going to affect your reputation is negatively, because you're not going to be able to do what you wanted to do. I think the timing of it, as Kosi mentioned, is incredibly strange. Matt, I know you've said that he kind of came back for a training session and then see you later. So he hadn't just suddenly woke up on day one and gone in and had a look and gone, do you know what, these lads aren't good enough, because he worked with them all last season. Something's gone on and something's triggered this, whether it be we're going to lose O'Brien and we're going to lose Toffolo. Can you give me a little bit more money to replace? And we've turned around and said no. What's a man to do? If he's got to third and overachieved with Toffolo, O'Brien, Colwell, and then he's being asked to replicate that with a on paper worse squad, he's not going to be able to do it, is he? Let's be honest. I think he earned the right to be able to go into that boardroom and say, look, this is what I've done with this set of players. If you give me a little bit more, we can probably get a little bit more. And who knows, let's mount another promotion challenge. I think Kosi called it right. As Town fans, we are used to getting into a really good position and Huddersfield Town pulling the rug from underneath us. It's not like someone's coming and taking him away and gone, that's Everton, West Ham, whoever's come in and poached him, and we've gone, oh no, bloody hell, we've lost his manager. We've probably been a big influence in this decision. I don't know. It just always seems like Town that we get to a really good stage. We build the foundations, we put the bricks and mortar in place, we plaster the walls, and then it comes to buying the fixtures and fittings, and we go, oh, do you know what? We better not spend too much here, and it just cheapens the whole thing, and it makes it hard for fans, because what direction are we wanting to go in? We've finished third, and all of a sudden now it looks like we're scaling back. So now are we happy just to sort of finish mid-table again?
I think
for me, that's what it felt like. I don't know about you guys, but
I
that's just how I felt. You know, we've got to third. Let's kick on. Oh no, hang on a minute. Let's not just stand still. Let's almost go backwards. Okay. Go on, sorry, Matt.
Yeah, I'm just saying that Kozi's point about the fact that he's gone nowhere. That I think that's what really sticks in people's throat. As Kosi was saying, if he'd been poached or gone somewhere, he'd go, right, fair enough. He took a step up, bigger budget, bigger players, bigger club maybe. But the fact he's just gone to Alicante for a fortnight, you know what I mean, makes it I think a little bit worse to take.
Yeah, it's like he'd rather be unemployed than work for Huddersfield Town, isn't it? That's the that's the thing, isn't it? Yeah. But Alicante's not bad at this time of year, though, is it, Kosi? So yeah, it's all good. Right, okay.
That's what I'm saying. That's the message. I was going to say, Matt, sorry, just before we move on, that's the message that comes out of it, innit? I would rather not work than work with this squad. What does that say about the players that are there and what we've been given? Yeah, we've recruited, but
let's. The thing is, though, Cos, I'll throw this at you as well. Carlos Corberan knew the budget. He knew exactly how Huddersfield Town operated prior to Wembley, so this is not a shock, you know, for him. There's nothing really that should have gone on should have been a shock. I just think that maybe he's done so well that season. In his head, he thinks, you know, I'm a little bit more important than the role is. That whole alignment thing is what I took from that. But you know, I'll go to you and your thoughts.
No, I that you know what, Matt. Once the kind of the red mist had kind of died down a little bit, I did think that because thinking, well, hang on a minute, Carlos, so kind of like you know, nothing's changed here. You know, just because we've had a good season, why should you want to, you know, if there obviously the rumours to believe you want to be more of an hands-on role and things like that as well. But I just think it's really weird at Wembley because I just come out of there thinking I would obviously devastated like everyone else, but I thought at least we've got, you know, we'll probably lose O'Brien and, you know, maybe someone else, but I just thought we've still got Carlos here and he's going to be ambitious. And a lot of them lads, you know, won't want to, you know, just like have a taste of that, like sign you a concert like Sorber and Lee Nichols just to like sink back into a table. So that were really kind of keeping me going and that. And then obviously, bang, that kind of news has come out and Carlos has gone. And I think the appointment of Danny Schofield is probably we're going to come on to a minute. And again, you can't, you know, what a great player and a good lad and that as well. And you don't want to be kind of having to go at him or what have you. But to me, it just felt, again, like, you know, if we'd have gone and poached a manager from, like, say, MK or something like that, there were rumours like that. But, I mean, that was the thing that really annoyed me as well. It's like the press, I'll never forget being sat here when Aileen McQueen were reading it out. She like, and Carlos Corberan's gone and Danny's, and she paused, she went, oh, I think that means Danny Schofield is the new manager, but we'll come back to you on that. And I just thought, what a joke that is. It's like, he didn't even get his moment in the sun, did Danny Schofield? And the club, I think, knew that because any comps that have come out now, they've made a big deal. Oh, Danny Schofield's our head coach is, you know, first this and first that. I just thought it was a total shambles with that. And it made us look a tin pot organisation. And this would a club, if, you know, John Moss had done his job right, we'd have been in the Premier League next season. I just thought it were amateur from start to finish. And for me, maybe Carlos is kind of best out of it. But again, I could be aiming for treble 20 and getting the communication for us to be, you know, Stephen Chicken, I believe is the new man. You know, it's embarrassing. Like the local journalist is like coming on it. We think is that, yeah, he is the new coach. He's having to ask around at the club. That's embarrassing. That's stuff like at Golka United or something, mate. And I wouldn't even be as like that. It was pathetic, mate. I thought that.
Not quite the empty seat Phil Parkinson of many moons ago when I was there. Wasn't quite as bad.
What a day that was. What a day.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, let's go to see what they say online and then we'll come to Danny Schofield in a moment. Right, okay, so let me move over to this screen over here. So hello, everybody that's watching online. We've got 62 at the minute, so thank you to everybody who's joining us online. If I could be the one who begs annoyingly, if you could all click the like button, that would be superb, because what that does is it just puts us under more eyes of Huddersfield Town fans and suggestions, so that's all good. So still on 3, so thanks for clicking that like button, but there we go. Right, so let's have a look. So Jerry Hinnan's online, so he says, hell yeah, new season, same takes that chance, let's go. I'm not sure if that's a good thing, but there we go. Terrier792 says, Carlos must have known the budget, knew the wage budget, knew how we operate as a club. All that must have been known the day after the playoffs. I don't get why wait until 3 weeks before the season starts. That was the strange thing, wasn't it? Cam Fry says, just going to mute you, Matt. There's a little noise coming from the back of your iPad. Right. So Coventry's Terrier says, sad to see Carlos go, but worried for Danny Schofield. Great guy, but fear he could be scapegoated if things don't go well. Terry72 says, yeah, he's left to protect his stock, in my opinion. Won't lose sleep over him leaving. And I think that's quite a popular opinion, that Carlos has left thinking, we've finished third. We're not going to better this. I'm going to get out now while my stock's high, and my next job will be up here, rather than if I finish 15th next season, and then I'm coming in back at this sort of level. So I think there's probably some truth in that. Matthew Langley says it's the timing he didn't understand. First week in pre-season, then decides to leave. It must have been great confidence booster for those players, just back, and then he has a look at them and off he goes. Steve B says Carlos worked wonders with the non-existent budget he had. Surprised he went, but must be more behind the scenes. Scoffers, Blue and White Army. Let's have a look. So Terry72 says Carlos dropped over 20 points from winning positions due to his tactics. We should have finished second or first on that basis. To be honest, we finished third in the league with a team of free transfers, so I'm not sure we can have too much of a crack at the tactics there. Someone says I'm a bit quiet. Can I turn my audio up? Okay, I'll turn that up slightly. So there we go. My audio's turned up. Right, okay. So Colin Franchuk says Carlos has probably left because he wanted to touch more control, more spent in transfers, and he's left whilst his stock is high. So I think that echoes a lot of what's gone on here as well. Right then, so let's move on to Danny Schofield. So Matt, you played with Danny Schofield, I believe, at Huddersfield, didn't you? Your paths will have crossed at Huddersfield Town at some point. Going back, I think you joined. Did you join about 2006 or so? And Danny will have been around then. And Halifax. So you are our inside man on Danny Schofield. So I'm going to turn this over to you now. I think the interesting point about this really is half the management team's left, half stays. So what we as Huddersfield fans are waiting to see is whether, one, Kosi going to go into full pitch darkness over there, because it seems to be getting very dark in Liversedge, or two, who were the brains behind all of the tactical innovations that we saw at Huddersfield Town? Was it Carlos? Was it Chicho? Was it Jorge? Was it Danny? Or was it a mix of all things? So I'll throw it over to you, Matt, and you tell us about Danny Schofield and what he can bring.
I'll just start with the fact if he was Spanish, Italian or German, we wouldn't even be having this conversation, because he's got experience, he's played, he's coached. He's 44 years old. You know what I mean? He's got to be given a chance. At some point, he's got to be given a chance. Other managers who have come in, you know what I mean? Carlos himself come from a 23. He's worked with Bielsa a little bit. Well, we're not going to talk about Sievert, obviously. And then, you know what I mean, David Wagner, what was his real first team experience when he came in as well? You know what I mean? Came a little bit. There's a lot of managers that get given the chance at times like this. Lad's got his badges. You know what I mean? He's a good lad. He was a good player. Knows the players. He's very respected as a coach, and he's got a little bite in him as well. You know what I mean? The nice lad you see on the camera, as you know when you saw him as a player, he had a little bit of a snap in him when he was a player and didn't suffer fools. And I'm hoping that he's very successful at Huddersfield Town, because it's about time that some English lads start getting given a chance instead of a random fella from God knows where in Europe. So I'm more than looking forward to see what he can do.
I think the exciting thing as well, Kosi, is that Danny Schofield is he's a bit of a Huddersfield Town man. I wasn't sure whether to say that, but he is really. He played for the club for almost a decade, didn't he? There's a lot of appearances there, a lot of goals. He said, hasn't he, in an interview, Huddersfield Town's pretty much his team. You know, he signed from Brodsworth for $2,000 a bag of balls. You know, he's a bit of a cult hero. Me and you had an argument once, didn't we? On because I put he was a cult hero on Twitter, and you didn't really think so. But I think he is. You know, he was there through promotion, scored a penalty against Lincoln in the playoffs, and against Cardiff as well, didn't he? After Boothie managed to work a penalty. But how do you see this? Because for me, I think Matt's right. Danny's got a lot of coaching experience, hasn't he? He was at Leeds as well with Carlos at some point. I think that's important to remember. So he's coming in along the same lines. He'll probably add his own spin, I would guess, to things. But are you? How do you feel about the appointment?
It's interesting, mate, because I think if you think of, God, I know you always compare like Wagner and what have you, but we went a different route. I mean, you could say, well, no, we didn't, because we got like a Borussia Dortmund kind of guy, and we're trying to continue that. But no, we brought in a guy from outside the club, and I think, to me, bringing someone from inside the club is definitely a reason for trying to, keep things as they are as well, and not change things too much. And I think the good thing as well is this is not a guy who's kind of, I don't know, been academy coach, and he's been around a little bit of that as well. Leeds United, he's done his time there, and he's been there. When he left Huddersfield, he's gone other places as well. So I just think he's a guy that could be really interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of stamp he's going to put on there, because if there's one thing quite a few things people were criticising Carlos for, but the football was not the most exciting. So are we going to kind of change our style of play? Are we going to do things a little bit differently in that as well? But I think the good thing is, Matt, I know you're saying like kind of lambs to the slaughter, following from an amazing season, but I think because of the love that the fan base has got for Danny Schofield, I do think he'll get at least 2 games before he's slagged. I mean, supported, before his, Twitter, but goes into meltdown. But no, I think the word is rather than excited. I'm very interested and intrigued as well. And the backroom stuff, it's really weird. It's kind of got a mishmash of before as well. So yeah, as soon as the whistle blows at 8 o'clock on a Friday night, mate, and Poz, you'll be starting the chanting, no doubt, with your guys. But yeah, I'm all over it. But it's it's easy to beat that bush. Beating with a stick in is like, oh, it's not an ambitious appointment. But like you said, Matt, if he'd have been, going to a foreign manager or whatever, come on Bundesliga 2, would have been, wow, this is exciting. So, but I just wished he got his moment in the sun though when he were appointed. I suppose it doesn't matter now; it's water under the bridge. But the fact that they didn't have a press conference, or we could have, they could have announced Cal's departure and given that press conference there. But I don't think that's helped the situation. And yeah, I think the pressure's on already on Friday night.
Poz, the Cowshed Loyal put out a statement. They were a little bit befuddled, weren't they, with what went on there as well. How do you feel about Danny Schofield being, a fan of? You started in the 1990s as well, didn't you? Danny Schofield. If there's a bloke in charge of Huddersfield Town that you want to work out, you really want this to work out, don't you? Because like I said before, Danny Schofield, he is a cult hero, Kosi. He's a top guy, and it's one of those where you really want it to work out. And I like the fact that we're succession planning, because that's really what caused a big downfall with us with the Jan Sievert, wasn't it? Because Jan Sievert was a succession plan from 2 years previous, wasn't it? And Matt's shaking his head. We shouldn't ever mention Jan Sievert again on this podcast, should we? But that Huddersfield Town succession planning wasn't good at that point. It's good to see that they've got a plan in place here. A lot of people will scream and say it's the cheap option, it's internal. That's not necessarily the case, is it? You can have good people working into the club, and we've seen over the course of the last 2 years, there's been a lot of people. The fitness coach went to Newcastle. We've had a lot of members of staff go off to Premier League clubs and top 6 clubs as well. So, Huddersfield Town seems to be doing the good things behind the scenes. They seem to be improving people, improving staff, improving players, and it could be a smart move, really.
Yeah, I know you mentioned Sievert there. Didn't someone say that we scouted him for about 3 years before we appointed him? So I think they had a succession plan there. It just didn't work. I don't buy that for any stretch. But anyway, that's been and gone. Yeah, I agree with Kosi. Right? I don't think excited is probably the right word, but definitely intrigued. I've heard really good things about Danny Schofield as a coach. I remember hearing when Cowleys were in charge that Schofield kind of weren't happy with the training that were going on under Cowleys, and he kind of went to them and said, look, this is not good enough, and kind of almost took over or took a lead role, which coincided with an upturning result. So if that's true and that's the case, then fair play to him for doing something like that. And yeah, it's nice to know that there were a succession plan. I think Schofield himself would admit, or I think he did admit on an interview, that it has probably come a little bit earlier than he expected for obvious reasons. But yeah, you've got to, no matter what you feel about what's going on at the club, for me, 99 times out of 100, the man that's in the dugout, you want him to do well, because if he's doing well, then Huddersfield Town are doing well. You can have your opinions on that person. You can like him, you can not like him, you can, the club as a whole. But when it gets to 8 o'clock, like on Friday, as Kosi says, everybody in that stadium wants Huddersfield Town to go out there and win. So whatever you think about Danny Schofield, whether you think it's a good appointment, a crap appointment, a cheap appointment, or anything in between, then when that whistle blows on Friday, you've got to back him, because he's the man in charge. If things don't go well, then we move from there. But a lot of people go into these things with a negative mindset of it's just not going to be good enough, which is a bit pointless, really. You might as well not bother coming in and stay at home. You get the feeling that some fans, certainly online, are waiting and wanting people to fail just so they can have a pop, which is not very nice, really. But such is the modern world. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Schofield can bring. Obviously, I worked with the backroom staff previously. I am a little bit not concerned, but it does play on my mind a little bit that he's coming in after Carlos, a third place finish, a playoff final. Championship is, it will chew you up and spit you out if you're not at the races. And I just hope that fans' expectations aren't over the top. I don't think that anybody would suggest that we're going to replicate last season. I know we're going to come on to predictions later on, but I think if we can get a top 10 finish this year, we'll have done well. And fans probably need to just accept that last season was a bit of a freak season. And now we're in a transitional period once again. Quite a lot of players gone out, quite a lot of players come in. It's not going to be turn up against Burnley and see this new beast of Huddersfield Town. It's going to take, probably until Christmas, maybe until we can all find his feet and, the style of play comes in and the players, players get to know each other and all that sort of stuff. So I think, yeah, certainly intrigued, looking forward to it. I think it'll be interesting. I think we're probably going to stick with it probably longer than maybe, some would like and just see what happens, really. I mean, in football, you never know what could happen. 5 games in, he could have lost all 5 and Dino could pull the trigger. You don't know, do you? But it's just going to have to be one of them. There's no gauge to go at. There's never been a first team manager before, so nobody can say, "Oh, X he did this" or "Y he did this." And I think the instant comparison will be just to Carlos. So for me, he's got to hit the ground running. We've got to pick up a few points in his first few games and just settle everybody down a little bit. But yeah, good luck to Danny Schofield. He's a as you say, Matt, a town legend. He's played in promotion winning sides and all that sort of stuff. So, as town fans, we probably owe it to him to give him a little bit more time than we might normally.
I think it's a good first game it's got, Matt. Don't you? I think Burnley at home's a good first game. I'd rather have that than Reading at home or someone like that. Don't you think? I'm not saying 3-8 job because, again, it'll be interesting to see what Sky kind of narrative will be there. Will they talk us up as promotion contenders or will it all going to be Vincent Kompany in it? I think this week, the build-up and stuff. And it's going to be a big game, this, because no Premier League football. Everyone's ready for football, I think, again, apart from probably me, I think. And so it's going to be it'll feel like a Premier League game on Friday night. You know what? If we could win, and I mean, obviously we didn't start well last season, so in a bigger picture, maybe it don't mean much, but I don't think it's a bad game on Friday for him to have on that as well. So, yeah, it's going to be fascinating night. Fascinating night.
Yeah, there's a lot of upheaval, isn't there, both teams in terms of the starting 11. So yes, it will be interesting. But I put a quick poll in the comments, and 81% said they were happy with Danny Schofield's appointment. So there we go, we have it. So thanks to everyone for voting. So the general consensus in that small little sample that we've done there says that people are happy with Danny Schofield. So we do wish Danny all the best, and we'll move on actually because we've obviously started. That was only supposed to be a little couple of minutes on there, and we've waffled on for quite a while. So let's move on to some of the good stuff. In fact, I'm going to start with some of the bad stuff, and that is Town's transfer business in terms of players going out. It's probably easier to cover the outs first, as a lot of our work has been enabled or is reactive to players that have gone out first and foremost, rather than us being on the front foot and bringing people in and then pushing people out the back door. So the main ones to discuss, and it's a painful one, Poz, Harry Toffolo and Lewis O'Brien. We've lost all of our vice captains, which is interesting. That was a question someone put to me on Twitter the other day. We've lost Lewis, Harry, and Fraser Campbell. All 3 were the little vice captains underneath Jonathan Hogg, wasn't it? So that was interesting as well. O'Brien and Toffolo were a huge part of the heartbeat and the soul of the starting 11, wasn't it? I think they're huge losses for the football club, and replaceable perhaps. My inner child is sort of saying it grates a bit that they've gone to the team that's beaten us in the playoff final. It feels like it's been one kick in the balls after another from them, hasn't it? Ever since that bloody own goal. But you can't begrudge players going to the Premier League and earning Huddersfield Town a lot of money when you sort of push that inner child to one side. But it is a little bit of salt in the wound in that one. But personally, I wish them both all the best because they've both been great players for Huddersfield Town Football Club. Poz, the work that Harry Toffolo did, especially sort of with you guys, as Brady's messaged him during the week to chat to him, on behalf of the podcast and stuff, and he always chats back. He's very sort of approachable, genuinely nice bloke, isn't he? And the stuff that he did with you guys last season, and Daz in particular, things like that count, don't they? With footballers, because sometimes footballers see it as just a job. But Harry Toffolo he seemed to take it one step further and do things that footballers don't necessarily always do or have to do.
Yeah, as you say, Matt, a great lad. Spoke to him personally many times for various reasons, and always come across as a top guy. Yeah, I mean, I've moved on to Forest. Amazing how they've both gone to the same team, innit? The best mates joined at the UP, and then they end up both going to the same team as well, which I find quite funny. Like Chuckle.
What it's safe style windows on it. You buy one. You buy one, you get one free.
Yeah. I think that was Coral, wasn't it?
Coral, that was the one. Yeah.
Well, it got one at Windows anyway. But yeah, it will be missed. It were a good link between the club and the fans, and as you say, that can go a long way in football. O'Brien as well. To be fair, he's done stuff for numerous fans and all that sort of stuff. But players come and go in this day and age, and you can't begrudge someone an opportunity to play in Premier League and probably go on to earn a hell of a lot more money than they would have done at Huddersfield Town. Yeah, as you say, Matt, good luck to him. Not really got much more to say than that. To be fair, there's nothing to say against them. They've earned the right to do so, and good luck.
Throw it over to you then.
You can't make it up, Matt. You can't make it up, Matt, can you? The two guys who should have had the penalties, who won the penalties that should have been given, are signed by the team that probably could have consigned them to. But honestly, it hurts, doesn't it? When it happened and stuff. And again, I think it went on and off for quite a bit and that as well. And then obviously the drama on the morning, the moves brought down, then then it's back on and stuff like that as well. I think. Again, Dean's obviously been quite quiet the second kind of chairmanship and that as well, and I think a lot of people are wanting to hear, yeah, it said 10 million, but it's 15 more, or it's near to 15 and stuff like that as well. I think the fees are kind of great in some people, but yeah, massive losses as well, and honestly, Toffolo in the last 2 months of the season was sensational as well. Part of me thinks he's made a mistake. If you can make a mistake playing Premier League football and trebling your wages, but I don't think you'll see much of the pitch, to be honest with you. And but O'Brien, yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see what he can do. But yeah, I won't lie. When them pictures came through with them and the Forest shirts and that, it hurt, did that. But that's the sliding doors moment of the Championship playoff. That's why we love that. Why everyone tunes in who don't even like it around the world and stuff, because it's just it's anything. We could have picked off Forest's best players, well, not best players, but some of them if we'd have gone up. It's just the way it is. It just riles me a little bit, but yeah, wish them all the best, as they say. But you mentioned there, Matt, about others. We're not even mentioning people like Nabissar, Pippa,
Reece Brown.
Yeah, it's all adds up to like squad strength and stuff like that as well. And it's going to be fascinating to see how others do. I mean, like Ruffles is the guy. Will he come in? Obviously, got Yakuta from the Eredivisie. So it's like, yeah, it's interesting because there's, like you say, Fraser Campbell, I totally forgot about me. Hardly obviously touched the ball last season, but we've lost a bit more than them, and it does worry me. We had some real leadership behind the scenes, and it's gone a little bit now.
Yeah, Pippa as well went to he's gone to Olympiacos, and that's Marinakis, who owns Nottingham Forest, owns them as well.
Yeah,
so
that's what his shoulders, aren't there?
He's pretty much come for us, hasn't he? Taking everything.
Yeah.
Just to say, Reece Brown, Carol Eiting, Nabissar, Jamal Blackman, Alex Vallejo, Fraser Campbell, all on freeze. Eiting a bit of a shame, but Russell's emergence really seemed to coincide with that signing, and Carlos went with the big man. Nabissar, what a great guy Nabissar is and has been over 2 years, and I think credit to Nabissar for never sort of throwing his toys out of the pram when he didn't play, and he came back in whenever he did, and he always played to the maximum that he can, and he was great last season as well. Campbell, big personality off the field. We've looked after Harrogate and Bradford City particularly well, haven't we, this pre-season with some loans. Jaheim Headley, Josh Osterfield, Matty Daly have gone to Harrogate, and big season for Matty Daly, you feel there as well. And Cian Harrott and Romney Critchlow must have really, really upset somebody because they've been sent to Bradford. and Kyle Hudlin has come in and gone straight out to Wimbledon as well. So there's a lot going on there, Matt. Anything that you're particularly worried about or pleased about or anything, or is it just circle of life if you want to start singing some Elton John? Off mute. You're on mute, Matt. Matt, you're on mute. Let me take him off mute. Hang on.
I didn't put it on.
There you are.
I can hear you.
Thank you. Yeah, no, Toffel and O'Brien to start off with. Two lads who just give everything. You have people that get linked to clubs that know that they're going to maybe move at the end of the season, who just down tools. Town sound about 6 of them in their second year of the Premier League who decided they weren't going to play. Whereas these two just kept going and going and going. They will be missed, but you move on, and you move on very quickly. It's not as if we're going to miss like O'Brien's goals or anything like that. And at times, you know what I mean, Toffolo's defending wasn't always top notch. These lads have done well, but there was weaknesses in the games. You know what I mean, especially O'Brien's scoring record. What was it? Was it 4 or 8 in 100 and something games? You know what I mean? You've got the new lad coming in who's got, what has he got, 19 goals already or something like that in his small amount of games that he's played, 91. The midfielder that's coming in, give me his name now. Rodoni. Yeah, coming in, attacking midfielder, gets in the box, scores goals. So hopefully, we wish O'Brien and Toffolo fantastic memories and go and do well in the Premier League. But I think there's new lads coming in that could be the new superstars for Huddersfield Town. So, yeah, it's a shame. And Nabizar, I thought, was excellent. And as you said, didn't make any fuss. He just got on with his job, made less mistakes in his second season as well. I think he had a bit less to do because it was a better team he was playing in, definitely. And other players, Pieper, I'd have drove Pieper there myself. Should never have played in the final. Certainly should have played all day long on that right wing for me as well. Injury prone, not the same player when he came back. If they got any money for him, if they got a quid for him, then they've done well with me with Pieper. Say it moves on. Campbell, another great, great player in his day. It was time for him to go. Town fan, give everything. He didn't leave nothing on the pitch. But if the team's going to move on, everyone's going to move on, and it's as simple as that. And I think they've done some decent business. And after last year's recruitment, who were us to question at this moment in time?
I love
Matt.
Can I
ask you?
Absolutely adore Luis O'Brien as a player. But
I did. Great, but he got anywhere in the 18-yard box and he couldn't swing his leg. You know what I mean? So they're going to get someone in there that can maybe chip him with a few more goals, and you never know what's going to happen.
Matt, can I ask you something? And it's absolutely nothing to do with Huddersfield Town. It fascinated me, the Jesse Lingard deal.
Which
to
Matt?
Me, everyone's Matt Glennon or anyone can have an opinion, but I just think everyone's like, it's ridiculous, this wages. But don't you think, Matt, that 6.2 million or whatever it is in kind of wages, almost like for one season, he could keep them up, it's a better way of doing business than saying Diakabi 11 million for 3 seasons and you're stuck with him. I think obviously Tam's going to tell you, but I just think it's smart. But I just wonder if it's kind of going to go that way, where it's almost like IPL cricket. He's going to get guys, maybe I'll have one season here, big wages, maybe run the contract down on a free. I just look back at our mistakes and thinking we'd never have had kind of done that. But I know Jimmy and Beckford were like kind of maybe the nearest we had to something like that as a gamble. But he kept us up that season, Matt. And I just think, I know it's not a Forest podcast and not a lot of love for Forest here, but I'm interested in your view on it.
Talk about Forest really, but go.
Stick 4 average players' wages together and get one superstar who's going to keep you in the division. I know what you mean. I think everyone's judging Lingard more than they're judging Forest. But I know what you mean. Have that superstar. And people say that footballers get jealous. They don't. If you get a centre forward who's on 4 times your money, who comes in and scores 25 goals and keeps you in the Premier League on your wage and keeps you at the top level, you don't care how much he's on. If he comes in as a stinker and pulls his hamstring in the first game, he's out for 6 months. Yeah, a little bit of resentment kicks in. But if you get someone in who's an absolute superstar, does the job, scores the goals, no one gives 2 shiny shites for how much money they're earning.
Yeah. We had Kyle Ludlin in, but we loaned him out, haven't we, though? So never mind.
Yeah, Jurassic Kyle, the Ankylosaurus.
Your video, Matt, saw him off, the idea. Look what you've done. Scared him.
Spent 10 minutes on that, but yeah, he's either going to be the new Tom Denton or the new Kevin Francis, isn't he? He's Kyle Hudlin, but wish him all the best.
It's his birthday today, Tom Denton. You watching Tom?
I watched him play for Chesterfield. He were all right, actually. Further down,
well,
he wasn't bad, actually.
I was there when he got signed. But we thought it was the manager stood in a hole at the time when Yeah, when Tom was stood on top of that hill, we're like, bloody hell, what's Stan doing there? He stood in a ditch.
Good lad, isn't it? Good lad.
Yeah,
Right, so the incoming. So we've signed the world's oldest 26-year-old in Will Boyle, a very sort of captain and leader type, if you like. You can see why Huddersfield Town were interested in Will Boyle. If you watch some of his interviews at Cheltenham, it comes across really, really well. David Kasumu, a player I like a lot, looks to be a little bit or replaced part of what Lewis O'Brien does. Lots of energy, really good, excellent defensive duel stats percentage-wise. Wins up to 90% of his defensive duels, which is really crazy, really, when you push that over a season. That's really phenomenal. So he looks like he could be a replacement for possibly both Lewis and Hogg in different scenarios, which is interesting. Connor Mahoney. I almost did a Police Academy skit as well for that, Kosi, but be thankful that I didn't bother in the end. He looks a bit of a punt. Showed some flashes at Millwall, but not really done much since his Blackburn days. And like I say, the Ankylosaurus is coming, Kyle Hudlin. Jack Redoni, some really good reports from training that Jack Redoni is very, very good. He'll probably play as an attacking 8 or 10. And I suppose what Lewis O'Brien's transfer has done is allowed us to really rebuild that midfield, because prior to this season, the midfield really didn't have the best sort of blend to it, did it? It had sort of two defensive midfielders box to box and no one really breaking forward and threatening that final third like Matt's alluded to with Lewis's goals. And Jack Redoni, David Kasumu brings the energy and Jack Redoni brings those late runs into the box, so we'll be interesting to see how that goes. Yuta Nakayama, hopefully there'll be no Yut shaming on this podcast. Apparently he's been excellent in training as well. He's perhaps slated to play left back, although that might change depending on Matt Pearson's injured.
Yeah, 5'11". I'm never keen on centre halves being 5'11" in the Championship, I must admit.
Do you know, if they play like Roman Edmonds, Green, Tom Lees and Nakayama at centre back, I don't think any of them are particularly over 6 foot there, so that would be an interesting back three. But yeah, Matty Pearson's picked up an injury in pre-season, so we'll have to see how that goes. And Tino Angerin, I'm quite excited about.
So was Rolando Arendt. In other news, I'm going to have a pizza on Saturday night.
And Tino Angerin, I'm excited by Tino coming back. Danny Schofield said he wants to play more attacking football. Tino's been top of a lot of fitness metrics for Chelsea over in the USA, so that's going to be really interesting to see how Tino fits in. Lads, let's talk about the incomings and if you're excited. Do you still think we require something? Striker is what people are shouting at on Twitter at the minute, because we've only really got Jordan Rhodes and Danny Ward, and people are a little bit worried about Danny Ward's hamstrings, aren't they, after the end of last season. Kieran Phillips did okay. He's done okay pre-season, but didn't really set League 2 alight, so there's a bit of a drop-off maybe.
Who's this Ellis Sims that they're starting to talk about now?
He was in my Strikers article. I really like Ellis Sims, but I think there'll be a lot of people interested in him if he comes up. He's a good young 21. He looks a little bit like the singer of the weekend, but he's a really good player actually. If we could get him, it'd be phenomenal. But the trouble is, Matt, you've got Danny Ward and Jordan Rhodes as quite high earners at Huddersfield Town. Do the club want to bring someone in who's going to be quite high earning as well and have someone not playing every week? I think that's probably the way they might look at that. But be interesting. So who wants to kick off with the incomings? Matt, you're talking. You can let us know what you think about Town's incomings.
It depends on the loan structure, though. If you bring this lad Sims in, you know what I mean? It's not always guaranteed you're going to be paying much of his wages. If you play him,
it'll be permanent, apparently, according to the reliable Mr. Nixon, who gets most of his info from agents.
Oh, there you go. No, the incomings, again, players that people might not get too excited about. But say we had that with Tom Lees last year. Nichols, a second-choice goalkeeper at MK Dons, who comes in and gets the Golden Gloves and is an absolute inspiration between the sticks. So yeah, I'm more than happy with what they brought in. And this lad Redoni, I'm reading more about him, and just if they can get someone in that midfield who can score goals, can get in the box like you said, and just add numbers in the box. Too many times Danny Ward's just stood there on his own when some decent quality was coming in from Thomas. I know Senari's not there anymore, but when there was some decent quality coming in, the numbers weren't there. So yeah, and obviously we talked about Boyle as well. Played a lot of games covering that left side, maybe. So I think they've ticked quite a few boxes, to use a Love Island pun. That obviously Love Island.
Let's not go down this Love Island route, because Poz on chatting about it on Twitter really let me down the other day. Absolute disgrace that.
Yeah,
and then Kosi wades in on it. So But they are doing a Love Island for people in the 40s and 50s, so we're going to try and push Kosi to jump on that show and see if you can get your
Matt,
yourself on it.
you on about your new arrivals, but one guy it's not a new arrival, been with us for a little bit now.
Is this
Josh
Rolando Aarons again?
Josh Corberan, honestly, one of the players of the season in the COVID season, anonymous,
Still here.
Not even nowhere near the Wembley occasion, and apparently all accounts not doing much yesterday.
Has he been linked?
Macron Stadium, but
has he been linked anywhere? Has anyone?
I've not seen any links, Matt. No.
Very, very.
Have you given up on him, Matt, or not? What do you reckon? He can come again, or can he not?
He looked like somebody that had sort of down tools for me last season. He looked like he was on his way out, but he's still here. And that's the thing. If you don't give everything you've got, other teams that might have been semi-interested in you start thinking, what if he does that with us in the last year of his contract? That's why when you go on the pitch, you've got to give 100% because you can change people's minds in one performance.
So we won't need a striker Matt, if he puts his finger out. But it's a big if, isn't it?
Well, he's in his last year because he's going to have to. This is that time now. You don't give
Simon Baldry disease. Come on.
I was about to say he needs to get a bit of Simon Baldry syndrome, doesn't he, and turn into a world beater.
Because I really like him. I've always really liked him, but he needs to lift his head up. He has to lift his head. There's too many times where he comes inside and he runs into 3 or 4 people with his head down. He's got to lift that head and start looking around and stop being as selfish as he was last season. There's a player there. It just
look at Mbenza in his last season. Suddenly turn into a player and he all smiles and jokes and everyone's going, no, he's a great lad, Dad. No, he's not. He's using Huddersfield Town for the contract somewhere else. And that's exactly what it was. So, you know what I mean? He's Coroma is going to have to show everything he's got. Otherwise, he's going to find himself back in the National League.
The thing that makes me laugh, though, Matt, because you don't get any insight. The club always put an interview with the opposition's news of Radoni, so AFC Wimbledon's correspondent for their newspaper, and all the players are absolutely brilliant. They're great lads. Everyone loves them. They're brilliant at this. Honestly, everyone with signs is coming out with these amazing transcripts, and I'm expecting to see an 8-0 win on Friday. Honestly, they can't make me laugh. I know they're trying to seem to be doing good and be positive, but I don't believe if the club are piping, they're hardly going to say, Kazuma always gets booked all the time, and he's been injured last 2 seasons.
He does get booked a lot, yeah.
Yeah, it does. But do you know what is? Johnny Russell's another one. What is the second season syndrome? Is that going to happen again? Is he hopefully not going to do the route and just have a good season? That's going to be interesting to see what he does in that as well. There's a lot of ifs and buts. Lee Nichols might make a mistake. You never know. It could happen this season, and there's all little bits and bats. Can Tom Lee's another year on the clock? Can he do it again?
You have to in the next thing anyway here, Cos. Shall we have a look through the squad and the squad balance? And this is where we usually look through each different position and sort of have a look at where we are and how we look. And Schofield seems to be one thing I mentioned earlier was that Town under Carlos used to flitter from 4-4-2 to 4-3-3 to 3-4-3 to 3-5-2. They used to fluidly change systems, whereas it looks like Danny Schofield's pretty much picked 4-2-3-1 every pre-season friendly. The left winger seems to come inside to shoot at goal. The right winger seems to get chalk in his boots on the flank and put balls in. So it looks a little bit more structurally the same from game to game so far, but that could just change. But we'll look at this with a bit of a 4-2-3-1 slant, if you like. So, in terms of goalkeepers, Lee Nichols, you don't need to replace Lee Nichols, best goalkeeper in the league last year. Do we lack cover? Jamal Blackman's left. Or do we not need to really worry about that because the emergency loan market, you can go out and pick someone up if the worst comes to the worst.
I think we're fine. Ryan Schofield's played enough games in the league now as well. If he has to come in and cover for a few games, I'm more than capable of doing that.
Okay, I want to see Ryan Schofield go out on loan. I'm quite pro Schofield getting out and playing because I think that's what he really, really needs to do. But if he does, you've still got Bilokovic, who's an Australian under-23 international at 19, and a season on the bench for him probably won't be a terrible thing at his age either. So, and obviously very highly talented as well. So, I think we're fine. Goalkeeper, Poz, Cos. You're all both looking at the squads there on your phones, aren't you? So
I am, mate. To be fair, I'm just looking at the HGFC Stato account. Did a really good graphic.
Players or something. I don't know what Cos is looking at.
No, I was
Anyway,
looking
he's
at
trying
the
to tell me
actual.
what he's muted himself.
Well,
So we'll move on. Right back's interesting because if we're playing 4-2-3-1, it's okay, but we don't really have a natural right wing back, I would say, at the minute. You've got Ollie Turton, who's fairly decent, as an out and out right back, more so defensively than going forward. Brodie Spencer has played 2 times for more than that, a couple of times for Northern Ireland, and also Romani Edmonds-Green can play out there if you're really, really struggling or you need a defensive right back. So we've got 3 lads there who can play. You all quite happy with those? Reckon Brodie Spencer could be in for a big year, really, potentially. Nothing.
I think there's a lot of unknowns, Matt, to be honest.
Yeah, I think Poz is right there. We all know Turton, what he can do, and he did quite well with injuries. He had a couple of little knocks last year, nothing too severe. I'd like to see him have a good, solid season where he gets like 90% of the games in, because he improved in such a short space of time last season, and if he kicks in again this year, under Danny Schofield, then I think we've got a really good versatile, say, right back stroke right wing back.
I'm just looking through, and I think first, and I've just covered defence there, but just looking at names that we've got, that they'd probably nail down a first team slot. I've got Lees and Pearson, Nichols, and then after that, maybe Turton at right back, and then Ruffles at left back, or Nakayama. But after that, everyone else is a little bit of an unknown quantity for me.
Nakayama, they've not got international clearance yet, so that should hopefully come through the international clearance next week. Nakayama
right down to time when he can actually play, so that'll be
bloody FIFA, isn't it, messing around? But Nakayama will more than likely play left back. Will Boyle provides that cover on the left side of defence. Romani Edmonds-Green gives you a ball-playing centre-back option. Tom Lees was phenomenal last year, and Matty Pearson. Again, I think we're quite reasonably covered there for everything, so I don't really have any issues there. Nakayama can play centre-back, obviously, as well, if needs be. Left backs, you've got Josh Ruffles, Ben Jackson and Nakayama. Ben Jackson's actually been playing on the right wing in pre-season. He's scored quite a few goals, which is interesting. So he's, there's always a player, isn't there, that comes through at the start of the season to stake a claim in the first team. And we will sort of predict the Phil Senior, the Phil Senior Mick Wadsworth Tribute Award later on, which is the breakout player, which we'll try and predict. Ben Jackson's thrown his hat in the ring there, which is interesting. So we'll keep an eye on that one. Central midfield, so the 2 in the 4-2-3-1, the double pivot, if you like. We've got John Russell, Jonathan Hogg, who moved to centre-back against Bolton as well, so you can throw Hoggy in as a centre-back potential. David Kasumu, Scott High, Dwayne Holmes can play there, or 10. Jack Redoni, and my tip for the breakout player this year, Etienne Kamara. So again, that looks quite interesting to me. Poz, you've got John Russell there, as your deep ball playing, machine, if you like. 6'4", 6'5", isn't he? Hoggy, the experience in there. Kasumu brings the energy that maybe Lewis O'Brien has vacated for him. Scott High improves incrementally, slightly, doesn't he, every time he plays, really. Dwayne can play there, and Redoni's going to be interesting, and Etienne Kamara. So
and Diarra, Matt. Yeah, mentioned Diarra.
Again, though, if you're looking at
not so much the double pivot. I think he's more sort of 10, that one, Cos.
I'm just saying, if you're looking at names again from last season and how they performed, looking at across in those 2, you've got Russell and Hogg, really. You say Holmes can play there. He's probably more left wing. I'd sort of slide him out there rather than in middle. But again, it depends on formations, doesn't it, and stuff like that. But I just think in every position we've got one that I'd say first team. But then I think in all positions that we've mentioned so far, and probably moving forward, just looking at this list, that there's once you get past that first 11, we are going to be relying on potential a lot. And he always looks quite good, or he's done this. He might do this, and he might do that, but. Yeah, players Scott High, Kamara, Kasumu, they come with a bit of pedigree, but again, you're just hoping more than knowing that they're good enough. And I think that's where we'll struggle. I know we've already covered outs, but there's
I think that's going to be us. Now, I think this is us, though. I know we're going to come on to predictions soon, but this for me is Huddersfield Town's a step back this year. And they will be aiming to blood a lot of these B team players. And if you blood these B team players, and then you can step forward again, can't you, the following year? And I think that might potentially be the aim with some of them. And going to number 10 as well. Dwayne can play up there, or he has been in pre-season. He's been playing just off the striker. Jack Rodoni is probably more suited to that. Tino, you throw him in there. Sorba Thomas played it last season, and this is where you bring Brahima Diarra in, Kosi. But Brahima Diarra I don't think he's been given a squad number, which is really interesting. Whether that indicates that maybe he'll go out on loan, I'm not sure, or whether he's just going to, whether it's something to try and get him to play his way in. But judging by how he did at Tranmere, potentially he could be pushing his way in, because he's been quite good so far this pre-season from all accounts, Cos.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, obviously it's like been strange, hasn't it? This season we're playing simultaneous games and stuff as well. So normally you kind of think, oh, this is the team that's probably going to go out against Burnley. But I honestly don't think. I think we'll get a couple of curveballs when we're looking at his phone at 7 o'clock on Friday. Or obviously listening to Matt announce it at 7:05 on BBC Leeds. But
of course.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And I think Johnny Russell and other people have shown, the last couple of seasons that if you're good enough and got a good attitude and, do the business in the levels below, you'll get a chance at Huddersfield Town. And yeah, while I'd, still rather have had O'Brien and Toffel, it opens up opportunity for others as well. So again, it's just that beautiful thing in it when you get a lad from the academy that comes through. I know Billing divides opinion on here, but it was lovely when he came in and did the business as well. And, even though John Russell, I can't hardly say we're made in Huddersfield, but everyone kind of, this is brilliant. This is a guy that's just kind of come from the academy kind of thing. So, yeah, let's hope Diarra could be the next one.
Say as well, that's again where Danny Schofield, obviously known for as long as I've known him, doesn't suffer fools. Don't care what your name is. Don't care what you've done, what you're doing. If you're not doing it on the training pitch and you're not doing it in his eyes, you won't play. I told you before that he's got that streak in him. He's all lovely and stuff. And yet he is a great lad, good, honest lad. But he won't suffer fools. And if people aren't pulling the weight, no matter who they are, then they won't play in the team. And it's as simple as that. So it might be a year where a couple of young lads get a chance. But there is a lot of professional footballers in that team that have played decent amount of games. You know what I mean? Even the young lad that we're talking about, he's getting close to 100 starts as well. So everyone's played a decent amount of football. Then you move on to the beat.
Matt, your corporate branding there with your Radio Leeds water decanter or whatever it was, and your pen there has just reminded me that I forgot to mention at the start of this podcast that we are indeed sponsored by Magic Rock Brewing, and get all your stuff from the good place Magic Rock. 10% off using our code AHTTC10 as well. So thanks to Magic
Matt,
Rock.
can I ask you, Matt, what? It's kind of, we should have asked it at the time, but what will the senior players think of Carlos going? I know. So obviously you've got Sorba Thomas on his contract, Lee Nichols. You've got other people that came to the club. I think Rodoni knew he was going, from what I heard. So it's not that. But what these people have signed, will there be, what does that kind of feel like out of their blue? And is that going to, because you're thinking Sorba Thomas, thinking, bloody hell, this guy's made me the player I am. Or do they just I'm paid professionals, get on it? Because I don't think it works like that much now, do they? Dressing room can be totally different nowadays.
Yeah, it can. A little bit more genteel than it was back in my day. Initial shock, there'll be phone calls made to Carlos. Some of the lads will speak to him that are close to him. Obviously, the lads who didn't play will delete his number straight away. So it'll be a mixture. So it'll be a couple of days, a lot of speculation. Where's he going? Where's he going to pop up? What's he doing? What's the problem? But with what we talked about before, the continuation of someone within the club being promoted, they all know Danny Schofield anyway. He spends a lot of time with him. He speaks to him all the time. He'll have had the team meeting. And then basically it's right, let's get on the training ground. It's time to move on. You've signed your contract. No one's going to down tools. They've signed for Carlos Corberan and Huddersfield Town. They signed for the two. They want to play football. They want success. They'll know, say Danny, from being a player as well as a coach as well at the club. So yeah, there's that initial shock, that initial what's going on. This isn't good enough. There'll be a bit name calling maybe towards people at the club, thinking they could have done better to keep him when he's brought my career. So, but Thomas will thank him for the rest of his life. You know what I mean? He's going to the World Cup. So it's things like that they'll never forget. But at the same time, you've got your boots on, you've got your kit on. It's Burnley on Friday, and that's it, game over. And it's, what is it? The king is dead, long live the king. And in football, it's very much like that. And you have to be very mentally strong and get over it and get on with it.
Yeah, because I heard a little bit how brutal football is. As soon as you leave a football club, you get booted out of every WhatsApp group that you're in on your phone as well, apparently. So there's no mercy. You're out straight away. Let's just finish the squad balance. So wings.
Poz is smiling. He knows that's happened at junior level and all.
Gummersall. You know what I mean? As soon as a coach leaves, that's it. You're out of
Get
Poz's
out,
WhatsApp
get
groups.
out,
Yeah,
Olga.
off you go. No
You're right,
mercy.
mate. You go sign for Howden Clough and you're done. You get to me.
So on the wings, we've got Sorba Thomas, Josh Karoma, Tino again can play out there. Redoni has played there for Wimbledon as well. Conor Mahoney, Aaron Rowe. You could maybe throw Aaron Rowe in as a right back option, but I don't really like Aaron Rowe right back.
No.
Pat Jones and some bloke called Rolando Aarons, who's barely featured in the last couple of years. And then up front, you've got Danny Ward, Rhodes, and potentially Karoma and Tino can maybe fill in there as well if needs be.
Matt, would Tino come back if Carlos still have been here? I don't think so.
I know the answer to that, so I'm not saying anything. But Matt
Yeah.
Glennon can answer.
Well, to be fair, probably not. Probably not if he was still there because he didn't really get a chance. But in Carlos's defence, Tino looked like he'd a bit of time at Burger King before he came in. You know what I mean? The lad had been injured. He had a little. Yeah. You could see he wasn't moving right. He wasn't fit, and that's why when me and Oggy, the last ones out the stadium, Tino was still doing his running and still doing his work on the pitch because he had to put his extra miles in because he wasn't fit enough. When he started getting fit, and we saw a little bit at Coventry near the back end of the season, you thought, yeah, this lad can play. Well, Carlos Corberan in the team, can't put a lad who's been injured, is not in shape, and not ready to play in the team just because he comes from Chelsea. Who cares if he comes from Chelsea? If you're not fit, you don't play. And it's as simple as that. So I think it was quite bold from Corberan not to play him as much as he did.
I think it's a bit of a coup for us, this signing of Tino.
He's in my list for later on. So one of Matt's things later on. Because I think he could be like a Brown or a Palmer, the impact that they had when they came into the club. I think he potentially, a fit Angerin, could be as good, if not better, than those two that came in and made a massive impact at town last time.
Oof.
Absolutely. Right, shall we? Let's have a look what's going on the YouTube channel here. Let's have a look. So I've neglected you guys a little bit, so I'm sorry about that. Right, okay, so let's go right back up here. So Colin Franchek says, we as fans need to look at clubs like Brentford that lost managers and good players, blooded B-teamers, with it taking time to consistently reach the players year in and year out. Leo says, because we finished third last season, expectations have gone up naturally. Let's not underestimate how big a loss Toff, Lewis and Carlos is. Terry72 disagrees with me. We've got a Japanese international to replace Toffolo, who for him only turned up for the last 10 games. I think that's harsh. I think Toffolo's been decent for 2.5 years, to be fair. Did take a little bit of time to get used to playing left wing back from left back, but I like Toffolo. We've got Mr. Daw on tour. The Nottingham Forest fans in here. He's a good lad, is Mr. Daw, so he's not like the whoppers that you sometimes get on Twitter. Leo, so Omar Richards out for Forest, so Toffolo will get a chance. With Kasumu and this is from Terry72, says, with Kasumu and Rodoni and Russell and Hogg, where do you think Holmes will play? And I think we've seen during pre-season Dwayne's been playing as more of a number 10 so far this year, so we'll take a look at that later. Ellis Sims has been mentioned again in here. Depressed Terrier says, why do we not look for more players in Spain? Vallejo and Pippa worked well. Unfortunately, the Brexit rules have made bringing players in from abroad incredibly difficult unless they play in a top division or have played internationally for the under-21s or in Europe. So bringing players in from the second tier of Germany and Spain is pretty much nigh on impossible these days, unfortunately, thanks to Brexit, which Cole Franchak has mentioned. Well, yeah, there's more to it than that, but yes, that hasn't really. But to be honest,
at least you can get to Dover quickly and Francis.
To be honest with you, Cos, it's a Premier League thing. It was the Premier League's choice for this. Scotland have pretty much opened the doors. The SPL opened the doors to anyone. Anyone can go there. They make their own rules up, and it's unfortunately one of these rules where the top six have got together and decided what the rules are for everybody, which is absolute bullshit, and is how football seems to be going at the minute with But there we go. So thoughts on Ben Jackson as well, which we covered a little bit from Mike. Do you think Grant will be given a chance? I didn't mention Danny Grant, did I, in the wingers? I should have done. He seems to have done okay, doesn't he, Danny Grant? I think there's still a fair way to go. I'd like Danny Grant to push through, because that would be another good story as well, like Sorba Thomas. So hopefully Danny Grant does push on, but I think a loan might make sense. I don't know if
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
How long does it take? I know he's had a lot of things like that.
Yeah,
But
he needs to start doing something, doesn't he?
what did he do at the other club for Town to say, right, we're going to go and get this lad? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Played in Europe, Matt. Played in Europe, even if it was for Bohemians. But
I've been in Europe as well. I was on holiday the other week. Yeah,
the Ibiza,
Danny Schofield could have
tour.
managed in Europe, mate.
Exactly.
The Ibiza tour, yeah.
Stuff like that. But wow, it's taken a long time for him not to get given a chance anywhere near. Again, injuries, I know, and fitness and things like that. But it just seems like he's an eternal B-team player. I don't know. He came with a decent rep, and we're going to see this lad progress very quickly. And what was that? 12 months ago.
Almost 2 years. Is it 2 years? No. Can it be 2 years? 2 years, isn't it?
Well, that's even worse then.
It's 2 years. Yeah, the poor lad never trained properly, had he? And he trained and he did his hamstring. He was out for months with that hamstring, and then came back and did the exact other hamstring, didn't he, on the other side? And then he got COVID and long COVID and all sorts of stuff, and struggled with living by himself. He's had a rough time as Danny Grant, but like you're right, Matt. Now's the time for him to start showing what he can do. And apparently, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say this, but apparently over pre-season, he's done very well in terms of coming back in great shape and looking to make an impact. I think I'm allowed to say that. So all the best to Danny Grant, and hopefully he can really sort of impress and push on. And if he can't quite push into our team, then maybe drop down to League One, show us what he can do, and come back next year. That'd be the best for him, no doubt. So thanks for everyone for the comments, and we're going to move on to some predictions now. So this season, I'm going to do things a little differently. So we're going to have a few games. So Denny Ledger does our Fantasy Premier League and Gaffer games. If you want to get involved with that, we will release the information next week. I think it's Denny's birthday, I think, and he's away in Bournemouth. So happy birthday to Denny, who listens to the podcast as well. So keep an eye out for that. My team, which I thought my team name was the best by a mile last year, which was There's Herat in My Kitchen. I finished 5th. So we will introduce those. But I'm also going to bring in a separate game whereby I'm going to give you guys a link to an Excel spreadsheet. Very, very technical, I might add. And what I want everybody to do is predict 1 to 24 in the championship. And rather than us looking like weapons every year with our terrible predictions, I'm going to open it up to everybody to look like a weapon and see if you can beat the likes of me, Dave Hartrick, Kosi, and Matt Glennon. Matt, you had a good spell last year, didn't you? You ended up on the non-shit board, unlike the rest of us at their season review. So you got a couple of nice ones in. I'm not going to be as gentle with you this year. We're going to get a 1 to 24, and we're going to see if anybody can beat Matt Glennon and the likes of me, Kosi and Poz, and Johnny Gillespie, etc. So I'll open that up this week, and I'll send something out to you guys.
Envelopes.
Say that again, Matt.
These sealed envelopes until the end of the season.
No, it'll be there, and I'll do an article about it, and I'll even make a really big geeky chart and put everybody on it to show where we are, so we can refer back to that throughout the season and slag everybody off. So that'll be much fun. Right, so we'll keep our powder dry maybe on the other predictions for the championship for now, especially for Poz, because he's got Fulham down, haven't you, again, to Poz to win that league. So
every time
it was that bad. It has to be referenced every time, though, wasn't it? We've also got a couple of small previews coming out. So we've got some Magic Rock pint-sized previews coming out about all the other teams as well over the next couple of weeks. While I'm waffling, if you want to hit that like button on the stream as well, just to help a brother out, that would be fine. So, Town's Player of the Year next year. So, anybody want to take this first? It's obviously nobody knows how it's going to go. It's prediction. It's fun. Don't get upset by it. Have a go online if you want. Who is going to be Huddersfield Town's Player of the Year next year? Who wants to go first?
Tino,
that's a shout. You've just copied Matt's, haven't you?
No, mine's for a different question.
Rolando Arad.
So you're going with Tino. I'm going to take your first answer for obvious reasons there, Kosi. And you want to offer anything else, or are you just shouting Tino just because it's fun?
No, I'll leave it to the experts like Poz and Matt, who are into the rock stats and that.
All right, thanks for that, mate. Pozza, seeing as though you're the expert, who are you going for as Town's Player of the Year?
I'm gonna go with Russell. I think he had a good end to last season. I think if he starts off in that form, then we will potentially win at first names on team sheet every week. So I'm going to go with Johnny Russell.
Interesting. Johnny Russell is popular as well, and you do feel that if he has a half decent season, there could be a bit of a groundswell, couldn't you, to push that one on? And
I have to say that I did watch 10 minutes of Town v Bolton yesterday, and I had absolutely no idea that it was Johnny Russell running around with white hair. I must have missed that.
Yeah,
Dave
Threlfall-Sykes kept calling him Cisco at the start, and he was on about how no one knew. John Russell had no idea who he was or the thong song. It was interesting to watch a football game and have the commentator talk about the thong song. That was quite fun. Matt, who are you going to go for? Can you imagine Oggy talking about the thong song as well?
Yeah, well, he does all the. When you see him. For me, I think someone who missed out a little bit last year, maybe Tom Lees, I think he'll have another great season. I think he'll be sat there. But I think Russell as well. I think he will kick on this year. I think he's realised his flaws in his game, which he's got to do things quicker. He's got to, step the pace up a little bit, not take as many chances. But that was just being a bit naive with coming into Championship football. I think he's going to sit in that midfield quite nicely, and he could be a bit of a general with a bit more to him than just just a normal stamper. I think he could have a bit more to his game. I think if he can add a couple of goals, which I think he will do this season as well, because he'll be fitter. I think he'll come back to pre-season. And you know what? If I have a top season this season, if I push on, I've seen O'Brien, I've seen Toffolo, I've seen other people move on to the Premier League. I might be in the Premier League with Huddersfield Town. You know what I mean? I could have that armband on my arm as well this season. And if he's not thinking that, then it'll be the turkey of the season. But I think he'll have that bit between his teeth. So I'm gonna go between those two. I'm going for a top season against Leeds because I think he's just consistent. If he stays fit, I think he'll be an absolute monster again in that defence for Town. But the outside there is Russell as well.
I did an article on each position of Huddersfield Town. We'll just mute you a second. Mute yourself, Matt. There's a bit of feedback coming through again. But I did an article and I mentioned in there that Huddersfield Town really need to have a look at the contract situation of John Russell and really get him tied down to something a bit longer term, I think, because if John Russell has a good year, there's not a lot left there and not a lot of negotiating room for Huddersfield Town if he does have a good year and teams come in. So, let's get John Russell tied down on a contract, not the other way. I've gone for Tom Lees. I think Tom Lees will get the recognition that maybe he didn't get last year, next year. I just felt that when I saw the results for the Player of the Year, and I think he came like 5th or something, and I was listening to the Second Tier podcast who've got us down for 20th this season. We'll probably be appearing on there to set Ryan and Justin straight on a couple of occasions next year. But for me, Tom Lees, at least they mentioned, the reason I mentioned them is because they were talking about what a massive loss Levi Colwell was. And I will be adamant that Tom Lees was our star defender last year by an absolute mile. He was a colossus at times. And if he plays like that again, then I will be banging the Tom Lees drum because I think another season like that will fully deserve some recognition. So I've gone for Tom Lees. There's people suggesting things online. Adam Kershaw says Tino. Radoni for Terrier 7N2. Tony Gomersall says Sorba. We didn't mention Sorba, did we? And what a key player Sorba is as well. Nichols again from Matt. Feel like we might need more work to do this year. Leo says Sorba Thomas. Gary Wilkinson says Tino, and Steve B says Radoni. So there's quite a spread going on across there. Radoni leads me on to the next bit, which will be who will prove to be our signing of the season. We've not seen a few of them for reasons. Kosi, you went first last time, so I'll throw this to Pozza. Pozza, we might not have even finished with the signings yet, so it could be someone that we've not even picked out yet. But having a look through your phone as you are there at the side, who do you reckon is going to be Town's signing of the season? If you take yourself off mute as well, that usually helps with... Cheers, mate.
Sorry. Yeah, I was just looking down a list of signings, and I'm going to go with Radoni as well because I think he just plays in that role where he'll get noticed probably more than anybody else. It was a toss-up between him and Kasumu, but I think he'll probably miss through bookings more than Radoni. So I'm going to stick my neck out. And I think Radoni, if he can chip in, I think Matt's called it right. I think we the midfield really do need to chip in with more goals this season. We seem to miss that. I always remember Michael Collins when he played for Town, and a lot of fans didn't really warm to him because he didn't run around and smash tackles, but he scored a lot of goals from midfield. And I think if we can add someone like that, then it'll give us a hell of a better chance.
It's going to go wild online if you're suggesting bringing back Michael Collins. That's an interesting one.
I know a lot of people.
I liked him though. I liked Michael Collins. I thought he was a decent player. Matt obviously played.
Yeah, I'm gonna go for Radoni just because I think he'll play in that role where it'll look good because we've not had that for a while, so it'll look different. If he can get off the mark with a couple of early goals, I think he'll have a good season.
Matt, who you reckon signing the season?
Signing the season, because there is another question coming later on, isn't there? There's the breakthrough later on, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, signing. I'm going for Tino. I think if he has come fit, and you're talking about the stats for Chelsea in America and things like that, if he is, you know what I mean, ridiculously fit, and what we read about him when he first come in, obviously wasn't the person that came in, but I mean, Tuchel's not going to be putting his head on the line talking about players like him without knowing what he's talking about. So I'm going for Tino signing the season.
I've gone for. Do you know what? I was sat here throwing Radoni, Tino around, but I'm going to go with Yuta Nakayama. I think Toffolo's a big miss. Ruffles will probably start the season because of Nakayama's lack of games. But looking at some of the stats for him, the defensive stats for Nakayama and his ability to play out from the back as well, and he looks a really interesting player. And I think Huddersfield fans will really take to him. And I think whereas Toffolo will be a big miss, I actually think Nakayama will prove to be a really clever signing on the quiet. Just looking at a lot of the data that goes with him. See, I do data as well, Kosi, don't worry, mate. And Nakayama, to me, looks a really interesting player. And I think he might just pip Radoni and Tino. But let's go to the Aaron Moy lookalike over there, Mr.
Kazumu. Kazumo's going to be a big crowd favourite. Hopefully, he won't get banned a lot. It's good you don't play rugby league now because you get banned for sneezing now for about 8 games. So you only see him about 3 games. But because he plays football, I think he'll get. Honestly, I'm excited by this boy. I think he's going to get all over the pitch. Yeah. He's going to throw himself in tackle. I think he's going to be the new Jonathan Ogg. I think what you'll get is Ogg will be benched a lot of the games now, and you'll get this David Kazumo being the new governor. He's going to be the modern day Terry Erlock, Matt. You remember him? Everyone's
I remember him being a very, very tough, dirty old man. Not a dirty old man, but a dirty footballer. Not a dirty old man.
No, I think we're going to want with this guy and that as well. And
I'm going to like him.
He seems to have I like where he speaks as well. He's like mine. I really can kind of, when Alan Moy or Jordan Rhodes speaks, I fall asleep. But like Kazumo, I kind of. Nah, but the person's character, but Kazumo, energy, buzzing to be here. Can't wait to get started. I can't wait to see him play. So, yeah, that's the man.
Nice one. So, Poz, you've gone for Radoni. Matt, you've gone for Tino. I've gone for Nakayama, and you've gone for Kasumu. So we've all gone for a different one there, which is going to be interesting. I'm going to put these in my technical Excel spreadsheet as well, so as bonus points as well. So hopefully you guys will join in on that one. And the one where Phil Senior's not on this podcast because he's on holiday, if anybody was wondering where Phil was. There'll be plenty of eating for Phil over at the minute where he's on holiday. The Phil Senior Mick Wadsworth Tribute Award. And it's called the Phil Senior Mick Wadsworth Tribute Award because Mick Wadsworth was the man that gave Phil his chance at Huddersfield Town. And Phil talks about Mick Wadsworth in really glowing terms. He's pretty much the only person in Huddersfield who does. So this is named in Phil's honour, with Phil coming through the Huddersfield Academy and being a breakout star in 2002-3. This is a tough one this year. I think this is because for me, the tribute award, it's usually a young player, obviously, that gets it, but it's all about opportunity. And it's like looking at the squad at the minute and trying to sort of place opportunity and places are up for grabs. I am really big on Etienne Kamara. I think there's a really outstanding young player with Kamara, but he's got a lot of people to get past, in his position. So therefore, I look perhaps to Brodie Spencer at right back, who's going to get opportunities this year, and he's going to have an opportunity to break out. And I will caveat this by saying a breakout star really can't be someone who has been brought in for £1 million, Jack Radoni. and he can't really be someone who's played 30, 40 games like Scott High has done already. He's played more than that, hasn't he, for Huddersfield? So someone who's played little and had little opportunity. So Pat Jones is another one as well over on the left wing who could potentially. But I'm really torn between Kamara and Brodie Spencer. But I'm probably just going to have to go with Brodie because he's probably going to get more opportunity. So next is Koz.
Romani Edmonds Green. I don't know how many games he played in that.
I'll give you that because he's gone out on loan, hasn't he? And he's had to prove himself
Yeah,
again. So yeah, I'll give you that one.
It's like a new signing. That's what they'll say. No, good. I think Rotherham desperately wanted him in that as well. I think he'll learn a hell of a lot playing in that car crash of the season, to be honest with you, where everything was going Pete Tong. Great development. I know Paul Warren, top coach, brought him on. They'd love to have him back and that as well. They were devastated, weren't they, that we didn't go up because I think they thought they could have him for another season. So, yeah, I'm the Regminator. I think there's someone on Twitter called that, isn't there? But he is. He's going to be our, and he's going to get probably a chance instantly now with Mr. Pearson struggling for Friday. So yeah, no pressure. First game, Burnley, bloody hell. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to seeing how he does.
Good shout, Poz.
A little bit like you, Matt. I had Kamara down, but I think he will struggle to play. A large amount of games unless someone gets injured or, fills in for, when someone's suspended and does really well. So we're gonna sort of toss up between Jackson and Phillips. I'm probably gonna go with Phillips though, just because I think with Danny Ward's injury record coming, his hamstrings and that sort of thing, I think Phillips will be one of those that does get a chance out of all.
I might say something which might help you here, Poz, but I did hear a little rumour that Kieran Phillips might be heading back out on loan. So we'll see if that changes your mind slightly. No, it's not set in stone yet, but I did hear a little murmur that maybe he will head back out.
We'll leave him in because he might come back off loan and get into the first team or whatever. I just think, like you say about opportunity, I've heard good things about Kamara for many a season now, but I just don't think I can't really say Russell's going to be my player at year and then Kamara's going to be breakout because they play basically in the same place. So yeah, I'm going to go with Phillips. He's been touted for a few seasons now. Has been sort of the next striker, and I think obviously that another year on Danny Ward and Jordan Rhodes, that neither of them are going to be playing every single match. So I think he will be given his opportunity. I think Schofield coming in, it's a good time for these young lads because he will have seen them for a long period of time. So I think they will be given an opportunity when it comes their way, and they've got to grasp it with both hands. And I think someone like Phillips, potentially will. So yeah, I'm going to go with Phillips.
Can you imagine being a midfielder and having Etienne Kamara and John Russell as the two enforcers in there and having to get past them, 6'5" and 6'3", that'd be some task, wouldn't it? Matt, round us up on the Phil Senior Mick Wadsworth Tribute Award, and if there's any random managers that gave you a chance that only you particularly take to.
No. Well, you've trapped on my bonfire anyway because I had Radoni. And then I was going to have Scott High to actually break into the team and play more games this season. Another year on, for experience.
I'll let you have Scott High.
Really started well last year.
He's not nailed down a place yet, so I'll let you have him.
No, because he started the season really well last year. Then he just seemed to disappear for weeks and weeks and weeks. Came in, had one game where I thought, wow, this guy's never played football in his life. He just run round and came up. And it was awful.
Oh, where they put him up front. Yeah. That was
Didn't he play up front?
Yeah, they put him up front and he had absolutely no idea, did he?
Poor lad. But I think, again, a year on, a year stronger, we'll see. But one of the strikers you're talking about, I know they're going on loan. I think there's a future for a couple of those strikers the next 6 months. I think they may get recalled. They might come back. Is it Harrott in there as well? Phillips. Yeah. I think there's a chance of maybe one of them actually stepping up this year. Because another year, they played a decent amount of games now, first team games, and scored goals at Football League level. So it's time to get your boots and have a go.
Yeah, I think ideally Cian Harrott scores 20 goals until January, and Bradford are in a really good position, and we pull him back, and then Bradford goes sinking like a stone. I think that would be probably the ideal.
Oh, you just pull him back because you want to.
Yeah, just to annoy Bradford, it'd be fine. I know they're not really. No, they're not really big rivals anymore at the minute because they've been down there. But just to piss them off, would be quite nice. I think just to remind them that they're a bunch of weapons. But there we go.
Yeah.
They're not real. They're all right. Right. So it's the big one. Where will Huddersfield Town finish this year? Right. So I've already given a position which was in the examiner pullout, and my cousin gave me some stick for my finishing position. And Matt, you gave me plenty of stick for the one I picked last year, quite rightly, because I went 18th last year and we finished third. And you said pushing playoffs. So can you repeat the trick this year? You sort of send us on our way here, because you said pushing playoffs last year. Will it be a magical year for Huddersfield Town again this year, or will we have a steadier one?
I think it'll be slightly steadier, but with the fact that I think there's clean sheets in this team, I think there's a lot of clean sheets still in this back four and goalkeeper, or back five, back three, one, back two, whatever Danny decides to play. So that's your basis. That's your base, clean sheets. There might be some more goals in there through midfield. So again, I'm going to go the same as last year. I'm going to go 8, but pushing for the playoff right till the very end.
I like that. Kosi, you're always full of joy. In fact, Matt, you give me stick for 18th, but Kosi predicted bottom 3 last year. So
no, I didn't.
I think you or Neil predicted bottom 3, didn't you?
No, Neil did, but that's why we sacked him, mate. Didn't have a clue that was saying. Yeah, no, but I think we'll become top of the bottom, mate. I think we'll be 13th.
Okay.
But again, someone's been on about this platform, like you never seem to have it in football. But if we get to the end of the season, again, I want to travel to games next season knowing we can win every match. And we got obviously that last year. In other years, I've never felt that. So I just hope that we can have that, even though it could be a bit Wild West. But yeah, 13th and leaving the season with a nice pace. Schofield's done well. Some of the young ones have had their day, and again, we can kick on. But this is football, and things are not like that. Others probably myself the best player again. But yeah, 13th.
Pozzarotti?
I think, as you say, we don't know how it's going to go, do you? Half of me says if we can, the sort of starting 11, 13, 14, there's a good 13, 14 there for me that could probably push, as Matt Glennon rightly says, sort of towards top 8. My thing is, if when injuries come and we have to sort of blood in these new players, I think that'll kind of level it out a little bit. So I'm going to sort of go around Cozzy's area, and I'll go with 15th, I think. Probably slightly negative, but then you can always be impressed, can't you, from that one. But I think if we finish anything above 10th, top 10, it'll have been a great season. So in fact, no, I'm not going to go 15th. That's a little bit low. I'm going to go 12th.
12th. Okay. I think we'll take a step back this year, but I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think there's in many ways we potentially overachieved last year. You look at the metrics and the data, and we probably
but Chapman will be turning in his grave, Matt, overachieving. I won 3 league titles in a row, man.
I know, but I think we perhaps did a little better than what we perhaps should have done, looking at a lot of things, but. Take nothing away from that team. It was a fantastic year last year, but I just think we're losing O'Brien, Toffolo, Carlos. I just think there may be just a little bit of a pullback. But like I said, I don't think that's going to be a bad thing, because I think we'll see plenty of young players blooded with an idea to move forward the year after, with them gaining sort of valuable experience. The likes of Kamara, Spencer, Radoni, etc. I think will develop over the course of the year. Russell, and I think we'll come back stronger. But I just think maybe a year. In mid-table wouldn't be the worst thing in the world with a regrouping and stronger going. So I think it's going to be in that. I like to look at them in blocks of 6. So I'm going to say between 10 and 14th for us. And I'll probably go sort of the bottom end of that scale and sort of say 13th, 14th. But I don't think that'll be a bad season. I think there's potential that we could do better if these players pick up earlier. I just think we might be a bit slow out of the blocks and then playing a little bit of catch-up. But I think mid-table will be absolutely fine.
One question. Why would anyone be happy with mid-table mediocrity? I don't understand. We haven't had it for years, Matt. It's going to be a new fandangle thing. It's boring. Last year was great. Last year was the end of the season. I didn't feel exhausted this season. I felt like some of the years I've done this job with Oggy, because it's been absolute tripe to watch at times. But last year was great. The ride was fantastic, and I don't understand why it's not like, kick on and that, and because you got some players coming in, there's people in there, there's that back four. I don't know. I wouldn't be happy if they finished 14th, 13th, thinking that's great, consoled themselves in the mid-table. I'd be thinking we should have done better. They could have done more with what they had.
I know what you're saying, Matt, but like,
yeah, I think
if
it's
you think
how
of
it
Coventry,
looks. I'll let you come in a sec. Sorry, it's just I think there's a lot of good teams there this year. I think there's a lot of teams that have strengthened well. And Cos mentioned Coventry, they're a dark horse. Millwall, the likes of that are really good in that pack. I don't think we're miles off. I just think that anything could happen. I think we could potentially finish top 6 again if everything catches fire early. I just think there's an adjustment period there whereby we'll probably start quite slowly, but things will start to slowly come together, sort of midway on, and we'll push forward. And if we're pushing forward rather than pushing downwards, then I think people will generally be happy because they've got something to look forward to going moving forward. And I think the problem with Huddersfield Town over the last, when you look at 16-17 with Wagner and last year, and we mentioned it earlier, is that we get a team together and it's shit or bust. You either go up or lose half the squad. So I don't think a pullback and then moving back towards that top 6 position with a stronger nucleus is necessarily a bad thing. And I generally think that's potentially what we could do. I do think that when you look at Kamara, you look at Russell, get them signed down to long-term contracts like Sorba Thomas, and potentially we could really move forward with a stronger group than we had last year in the coming future. And that's what excites me. Not finishing mid-table, but bringing through young players like Spencer, like Pat Jones, like Kamara, Radoni, and then forming this group which isn't built on sand with lone players like Nottingham Forest, where no offence to Nottingham Forest, but there's a real nucleus, and then you've got the potential to go up like Brentford have, rather than it being in a complete lightning bottle like we did last time, whereby you're shitting yourself as soon as you've won promotion because you've got to sign 15 players or whatever. I do think that if there is a world where we can go back to go forward 2 steps with a real strong nucleus, and that's what excites me, rather than finishing 13th, 14th being exciting. That's how
you're a patient man. You're a patient man.
I am patient, yeah. Go on, Cos.
Yeah, I just think the 16,000 season Caldwell is going to be an interesting dynamic, I think, in the stadiums, because I think that's going to add a lot of pressure. I felt that, obviously the playoff semi-finals are a different thing, but you could feel like when stuff weren't going our way, there were frustration with a lot of people who, in my opinion, had just rocked up for these big games and stuff like that as well. So we've got a lot of these people back, being kind of seduced by the like the ride Matt said, amazing journey and stuff like that as well. And I suppose the cream rides at the top, doesn't it? Responds to this pressure and that as well. So a lot of these young guys will sink or swim, I think, with the crowd. And it's like at town, John Russell, we're getting some right hammer, even in that playoff stuff. Oh, pushing it back, bloody hell, boo, move it quicker and all that. So, yeah, it's that's going to be interesting to see how kind of our players handle that as well, because, like I say, there's going to be a lot of youth and inexperience in there, and the manager's one of those as well. So it'll be fascinating. I mean, I was looking around at 1 or 2 teams, because I think Stoke, Cardiff, it doesn't mean to say they're going to do anything, but big numbers of players coming in. I always think their fan bases are interesting, kind of down there, and a lot of it, this is brilliant, this is our year, and all this stuff. So it's, I think below us have kind of strengthened Swansea as well. So it'll be interesting. I think we've strengthened with potential and lost the crown jewels, and that includes the coach. So it's, but that's the beauty of the division. That's why we love the championship, because we don't have a clue, do we? And you can see it. Manchester City have won the league already, pretty much, with Liverpool, and forget about anything else. Where this is going to be exciting and that as well, because I don't think Norwich, normally they'll probably win the league again, but I don't think it's the Norwich that have come back from the other year and stuff under Daniel Farke. So it'll be fascinating, man. And as much as I don't like football starting in July, bring it on.
I think that's all we've got in terms of predictions, haven't we, so far? Anybody want to throw anything wild in? Cos, Poz, anything's lined up for the Cowshed Loyal that you want to throw in there or anything?
No, mate, no more to mention. I think we've probably covered everything.
Good.
He's getting his banner back out. A time for new heroes. He's back out again after
it probably works.
That semi-final, he works now. Probably been more liking that as well. But no, it's going to be interesting, isn't it? And
game time, what it is, game time. So it's good. Friday night, it's going to be good. It's going to be a good build.
Yeah, that garbage with that Birmingham movement. Absolutely ridiculous, isn't it? That moving that for Commonwealth Games, that's shocking, that, isn't it? It's honestly
slack from Birmingham, that, isn't it? Really,
it's shocking, mate. And it sounds like their ownership is like, never mind that. Who's looking after the club there? It's ridiculous.
Hopefully not Lawrence Bassini for their sake. There's just a couple of things to finish off in the YouTube comments. So Terrier792 says, signing of the season for me. Jutta saw a guy from Holland say he was the third best defender in Dutch football. Tony Gummersel says Tino will be signing of the season. Coventry Terrier says Nakayama seems to come with high praise from abroad and think he could be a crucial weapon for us. Leo says Rodoni or Tino is signing of the season, and Kasumu needs to stay fit. History of being injury prone. Cov Terrier, Ben Jackson for breakout star. Really impressed me in the preseason games so far. That's an interesting one, Ben Jackson. Roman Emmons Green for Terrier 782. Reg again for Leo. There's a lot of support for you here, Cosima. Colin Fronchak says Scott High needs to bulk up his physique to cope with the division, but the ability is there. Leo's still trying to work out what type of midfielder High is. High is a really sort of technical midfielder. He's got a good passing range, hasn't he, Matt? He gets on the ball, he looks to move it quickly, and he's quite progressive, isn't he? He can sit deep and spray the ball around. If you look at a lot of Town's goals, last November, December, they start with a Scott High pass, don't they, out wide? I'm thinking Bristol City away, Coventry, the goal where Danny Ward scores against Coventry. Scott High plays a really key role in these by just shifting the ball quickly. I think because he's not built like John Russell, I think he gets a lot of stick from a lot of Town fans. But different players come on at different times, don't they? So I think Scott High's time is going to be when he hits sort of 23, 24, isn't it? Rather than John Russell being 6'5" and full of muscle at 15 or whatever it was. Yeah.
Scott High's cousin played for the Giants. He's a rugby player as well. So and he is thick. So it's in the genes somewhere. There's some muscle ready to break at any point.
Just need to buy him a tub of protein powder, don't we, and set him on his way. Yeah.
Give him a little multi-gym for his bedroom. But no, he is someone who can pass the ball. He has got a good range of passing, and you can see he's got the 5-yard pass in him. He's got the ping as well. He hit a couple of half volleys that were sticking in mind last season. I don't know what games they were, but I just think, bloody hell, it just needed someone to come on and just spread the game out a little bit, and he did that. And that another pre-season, a manager who has worked in the 23s and may be able to get a little bit more out of him than Carlos did. And as I say, he is a long time in football. He is a very long time. A lot of learning, a lot of work done, a lot of strength gained as well, and experience. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think to answer the 4-2-3-1, I think number 8 is probably his best at the minute. Steve B says 12th out above it is a bonus. Colin Fronchek says Bradford City, the Huddersfield Town finishing school. And the last ones are from Mike. Terrier72 says, I think we'll finish first. And he also says, you need to ask, what will the players be aiming for? I think the players will probably be aiming for playoffs, won't they? I'd be very surprised if they weren't thinking along the lines of top 6. But that's it. So thank you very much for joining us on our pre-season preview. Thanks to Matt for joining us as well. All the best with Radio Leeds, and give our love to Oggy as well. We're all big Oggy fans here.
Johnny bailed on us and a drink other week and that as well. So we're not going to listen anymore, Matt. I'm going to put all 107.9 on right now. Oh, is that
Andrew Croshaw.
That's the song, man.
What was the caravan place that he had to mention every 5 minutes as well? Good times, those. Good times. So thanks to everyone. Keep an eye out for the game. We'll probably post it on social media, the game coming up, and most of us will be having a crack before this Friday. And I think there's nothing left to do apart from me to get my bearings and then roll in the end credits.
There's a team that is dear to its followers. The colours are bright blue and white. They're a team of renown, and they're the pride of the town, and the game of football is their delight. And all the while upon the field of play, thousands loudly cheer them on the way. Often you can hear them say, who can beat the town today? And then the bell bells will ring so merrily, and every